What's going on, everybody? This is John Jake Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with another episode of the NCSL Dynasty that you will see specifically here on College Football Revamp. We are in the midst of our second season of this series, and in just the first few weeks, we have seen some very good football action so far over the course of the season, but that is still going to continue here. We are going to continue to see some great action in this episode as we have multiple top 25 matchups planned for you guys. But not only do we have multiple top 25 matchups, we have a bunch of other games I'm going to show you guys throughout the nation in this episode. 16 nationally televised games, they will be coming to your direction here today. So hope you guys are excited for this episode as we move on to week number 4 of the NCSL series in year number 2. And if you guys are excited for it, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me, hit that subscribe button as well if you do have to be brand new to the channel. Let's go ahead and dive right into the action. I'll see you guys on the football fields around the country here in week number 4. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. So the first game that we do have in this episode is actually a Wednesday game of all days. We have Alabama going across the country to take on a San Jose State team that has not lost a single game yet this season. They also have a signature win against Auburn as well. So Alabama has to be careful in order to avoid the same fate that Auburn experienced earlier in this season. And midway through the first quarter, Tyrone Fields is going to get the scoring started for San Jose State, and they still hold on to a 7-0 lead. However, after that, Alabama really starts to get its butt in gear as Alabama does tie the game midway through the second quarter. And then a few minutes later, Curtis West throwing some dimes all over the field, trying to lead that 3-minute drive before we get to the end of the half. As a couple plays later, it's going to be a run over to the right-hand side. Brilliant blocking on the outside as Quinton Lake uses it in order to find the end zone, as this will be the first lead that Alabama gets to enjoy all day long. As 2 minutes left, San Jose State will try to respond back. It's going to throw over the middle of the field, but I mean, somebody get a sleepover party started because there was some blankets all over that receiver. Dedrick Carlson making the leaping play, so Alabama does get an additional chance to score before we go into halftime. And Curtis West, being one of the best quarterbacks in the country, I expect to see this young man called for the NFL draft when that year 2 draft class is announced. As we got a nice spin move by Curtis West, who's going to get a second touchdown of the day. Alabama will have a 21-7 lead as we go into halftime. And the beautiful thing about Alabama is that they keep it going in the third quarter. Curtis throws a beautiful dime out to the right-hand side, out to Steffens, just being the press coverage. That's going to be one of the easier touchdowns that Curtis West will have on the day. And I mean, it was just one of those performances where, I mean, Alabama really utilized their offensive line in this one. They dominated San Jose State in the trenches, and that was evident on this particular red zone drive. Alabama looks like they probably will end up winning big, barring a disaster, but Curtis West, he'll throw one more touchdown to Ernest Concepcion, who gets his first touchdown grab of his college career, and San Jose State will no longer be undefeated. So here's to hoping that we get some more entertaining games throughout the rest of this episode. We got a few top 25 teams in action, but first, we'll check in on Oregon, number 4 in the country after their big-time win against Michigan. They will be starting conference play against Stanford, and nobody gave Stanford a memo, but Montrell Hawkins, the Eastern Kentucky transfer, he puts the ball on the ground, and Stanford's going to score off of that. So Stanford up 7-0 early. But we know that when in critical moments, Oregon is more than capable of putting points on the board, even though they may run a more traditional pro offense. And Jeff Brady's going to just line up behind his offensive lineman. They'll score a touchdown. And we got a tie ball game going into the second quarter now, but Stanford, got that home crowd behind them. It's raining, so you know what they say about weather. Weather can always be the great equalizer. And Stanford once again taking the lead. Justin Gardner gonna punch it in for the Stanford Cardinal as they'll once again have the lead here midway through the second quarter. Cutting it to about 2 minutes left. Stanford did miss the extra point, so Cardinal are only up by 6, and Montrell Hawkins is going to show off the arm. He's going to throw a dime to David Miller, and David Miller helps Oregon retake the lead. Stanford cannot respond, so Oregon can try to add on to the scoreboard before we go into the halftime locker room. So we'll see what Montrell Hawkins can do with a minute left in this half, as he will drop back from the shotgun. No, it's a halfback draw to Jeff Brady. Brady running down the sideline. He's going to pick up a gain of 10. I'm sure he was thinking about trying to get out of bounds. They do only have one timeout remaining, but it won't be necessary, though, as David Miller again finds the end zone. Touchdown, Oregon. And they'll have an 8-point lead going into the half. So here we are, barbecue on the titties. We jump into the second half of action as Oregon still up by a few points here as they look to try to secure the dub, as Chris Moore just had himself a big boy touchdown. Montrell Hawkins absolutely feeling himself, but Stanford does claw back into this game and they will tie it up. And that does mean that we will be having overtime in our hands. The first time this season, I think, that we've experienced an overtime game. Oregon missing their extra point as well, so this would win them a game, and they do. Stanford turns around and wins. They pull the upset on the number 4 Oregon Ducks, and for the Stanford Cardinal, that's an absolutely massive boost to that program. So now we check in on Houston, taking on the Oklahoma Sooners. Oklahoma's still a little bit shell-shocked. They have not returned back to the top 25 since they lost to Hawaii in their week 1 opening game. So we'll see if Oklahoma can start their first winning streak of the season. Mike Nolan will be a key. He's been held pretty quiet thus far. 11 catches, 119 yards through 2 games. They expect more from him moving forward and expecting more in general out of this offense. And they're not getting that right now. Houston's going to be able to force a fumble inside the 5-yard line, and the Cougars recover it. So Oklahoma, their first red zone trip actually turns up empty. And Oklahoma's still looking for its first points of the game. Granted, Houston hasn't done anything on offense either, but Oklahoma struggling through this first quarter. We'll see if they can finally turn around and we finally see some points on the board to get this game scoring. We're not used to seeing these low-scoring games out here in the state of Texas and Oklahoma, this part of the country. Offense typically does reign supreme, but Leon Jackson does find the end zone eventually for the Oklahoma Sooners. They'll take a 7-3 lead into the second quarter. So I think they're starting to find their balance. They're really leaning on Leon Jackson right now. He almost has 20 carries here in this first half, and that doesn't even include the receptions that he has. They are riding his coattails right now as trying to really ignite the engine that is the Oklahoma offense. We haven't seen them at their top potential. They haven't seen them at their ceiling yet. Maybe we're starting to see it now, though, as this time Bo's going to find the end zone for the Oklahoma Sooners. That'll make it a 10-point game. They do miss the extra point, but before we go into halftime, we have Jason Brady in the back of the end zone. Looks like Oklahoma is in a spot to where Houston is going to be ran off the field if they're not careful. So Houston, however, they did calm themselves down a little bit in the second half, but scoring a touchdown on this particular drive would really help them right now. Field goals probably would not help them too terribly much at the moment. But Dante Sims, he'll find the end zone for the Houston Cougars as they'll start to claw back into this game. 10-point game now, less than 2 minutes left in the third quarter. Looking over to the right-hand side, it's got a receiver, makes the linebacker miss, and nearly finding the end zone. That's Brad Nugent, who has a 12-yard reception. Good time to get your very first catch of the day, as it does set up 1st and goal And on that very next play, facing some pressure, thought Craig Brooks was going to get out of it, but TJ Johnson was able to knock him down. That's his second sack of the day. He's been having a brilliant performance so far. But a couple plays later, Houston will still find the end zone, finding Ryan White for the 7-yard reception. And Houston just draws to within one possession. And the crazy thing about this game is that Oklahoma's offense, it has completely stopped really doing much of anything. So Houston has a chance here to really come out here, take the lead with less than 3 minutes left. We'll see what they can do here in this 2-minute offense. Looking over the middle of the field, finds Nick Thompson for a 12-yard gain. Now it's 2nd and goal. Again, dropping back, looking for the lead. They're gonna get it. Ian Barnes finds the end zone. Touchdown, Houston. And the Cougars are gonna stun Oklahoma in Norman as the Cougars get the 2-1 in the year. Meanwhile, going back over to the East Coast, we have Memphis taking on the Ole Miss Rebels, the preseason #1 team in the country. They did lose to Louisiana Tech, but we'll see what they do against Memphis here. But Memphis not going away quietly. They are a team that's better than what that 0-3 record shows. They just had some really bad luck here in this first quarter of the season. We'll see if Memphis can finally break the curse. So they start up 10-0 here in the second quarter, but Eric Archie throws a beautiful ball to the left-hand side, finds James Sanders, and Sanders, you know, he's all about that 10 toes down movement. He's going to get both of his feet down. Not only would that have been catching the college level, but that's also a catch at the NFL level. Maybe he's ready to play on Sundays. And Tony Britt is ready to give Ole Miss the lead as well, as they take their first lead of the game. So 70 seconds left in the first half, though. Archie trying to throw deep downfield. That's a beautiful ball down the sideline to Stephen Castillo, and it turns into a 50-yard bomb. And Ole Miss builds upon its lead, but they don't slam the door shut on Memphis. So the Tigers are still in this game. They still have a chance to win it here as we get to within the last 4 minutes and 30 seconds of the game. This is to set them up for a 2-point conversion to tie this game. Melvin Gray does punch it in. But like I said, they still need a 2-point conversion if they want to tie this game up. It's going to be a run up for God, but it's going to be absolutely denied. So Memphis down by 2, but Ole Miss can't score in their next possession. So looks like the Tigers might have one more shot at winning this whole dang game. We'll see what they can do. 30 seconds left in the ball game. Bain dropping back, looks over the middle, finds a receiver. Marcus Stewart with the reception, and they are now in Ole Miss territory. Remember, they just need a field goal. They need this throw, though, because they don't manage the clock very well. This is for it all, and it's going to be intercepted. Ole Miss is going to survive. Man, that was a close call, though. Ole Miss does win, but they should be counting their lucky stars, though. But now we get our very first top 25 matchup in this episode, and it's going to have the #1 team in the nation, the UCLA Bruins right now. Yeah, you heard that right. #1. They'll be taking on the Panthers of Pittsburgh. They're ranked number 15 in the nation. Also off to a 2-0 start, but Pittsburgh, they played FCS teams so far, or like the FBS generic, like really low-level FBS squads. So that being said, this is going to be a test for Pittsburgh. They are at home, though, and right now it looks like Pittsburgh's going to have his work cut out for him, as the opening drive for the UCLA Bruins is actually going to end in an opening drive touchdown, as Brent Childress is going to be the one that's ultimately going to get the scoring started. And it didn't even take a few minutes to get it done. UCLA, they certainly came to play. Later on in the first quarter, going to try to set up yet another run. Running on the outside, but there's a fumble. Pittsburgh is going to recover. He has nobody in front of him. And 59 is going to be gone. That's Jamie Jones who's going to be gone like a girl in a country song. Touchdown, Panthers. And Pittsburgh, just like that, is going to tie this game right back up. Jumping into the second quarter, we now see Pittsburgh lift the lead thanks to a field goal. But look at this. Pittsburgh makes another big play downfield. Going down the sideline, it's intercepted again. Another critical mistake. Lawrence Johnson making him pay for it. As Brian Daniels just thinking too much about that big play. He just needs to settle down a little bit. That almost could have been a turnover as well, as Brent Childress there was actually pretty relatively covered. I actually don't know how that pitch ended to get off, right? I really do not have any kind of idea, but what I do know is that UCLA will now have the lead here in the Pittsburgh Panthers Stadium. But Pittsburgh has a chance to respond. Third quarter now. Still a 4-point game. He's got a clean pocket initially, but he runs out of time. And, I mean, that's a coverage interception, plain and simple. He had plenty of time to read the defense, but Matt Mackey felt that internal clock tick a little bit too fast. Throws the interception. And now UCLA with a chance to add to their lead. And they will with Brent Childress. Somebody call it a soccer game, because that's a hat trick for Brent Childress. Gets his third touchdown of the day. But let's not forget what this quarterback can do. We've seen a lot of Brent Childress highlights thus far, but this quarterback, Brian Daniels, well, he can use the feet too. He's going to casually get a 30-yard run there as well. And then throw over to the right-hand side, finds his receiver, who makes a couple of plays for him, and Kobe Green finds the end zone. So we finally do see a Brian Daniels touchdown. They really haven't had to use him too terribly much so far. However, that being said, Brian Daniels really making them pay for it. And UCLA with their biggest lead of the game. They're up by 18 against the number 15 team in the nation right now. But so now Pittsburgh, they're definitely looking for big plays and big plays only. That will certainly help make this game a little bit more interesting. Brennan Ingram, he was somehow able to sneak behind the defense there. And listen, Pittsburgh's offense, they really needed that. They only had like 70 to 80 yards passing before that throw. They're going to double up thanks to that particular pass. Like I said, they're going to need a little bit more of that. 2-possession game, and there's still only a few minutes left. Still not an easy comeback to make. But at the same time, though, I think that interception, we might be seeing that fat lady sing. Don't really like to see that. UCLA was able to not only knock some time off the clock, but they did manage to add a field goal. So it's back to it being a 3-possession game yet again. So Pittsburgh at this point really going to need a miracle if they want to come back and actually win this game. As Mackey does throw a strike over to right inside, finds the tight end Kendall Moore. Going to make this game a little bit more interesting, cuts it down to just a 10-point lead with the last minute and a half. But thing is, just a little too late for the Pittsburgh Panthers. UCLA, they will be going all the way back across the country. They will be improving to 4-0 after this 34-24 win on the road. And yeah, UCLA looking like a team that once again could go to the college football playoff. So now we got a bunch of more games happening around the country. Most notably, we got the number 6 team in the country in the Miami Hurricanes going to work. They will be hosting the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Oklahoma State, a team that was blown out earlier this year against Virginia Tech. So they're really going to have to bring that A game if they want to come out here and play at a level that is going to allow them to compete and maybe mess around and beat this Miami squad, who is, of course, still your defending national champions. But Oklahoma State is rising up to the occasion so far. Lou Minos, he's going to get a rushing touchdown, allows the Cowboys to take a 10-0 lead early, but the Miami Hurricanes, they brought some guns of their own, as Jared McBride's going to run up the gut for an 8-yard gain, sets him up for a short 3rd down conversion. Well, I'm expecting a read option. That's exactly what we get, as Jared McBride is going to take the carry and get his way into the end zone. Miami cuts it down to just a field goal. Meanwhile, late in the second quarter, we still have the same score as Munoz is looking to take control for the Cowboys. Offense throws over the middle. He's actually got a lot of room to work here down the sideline. He's always got a safety to beat, and the safety does catch him, but Kevin McKenzie with a 60-yard reception It provides a red zone opportunity for the Cowboys as Munoz again throws to the left-hand side. He's going to set up the screen extremely well for Walter Hicks. And Walter Hicks is going to extend the lead for Oklahoma State. Miami might be in some serious trouble right now. Upset alert bells, they are certainly ringing right now. Casey Carter's going to have to really deliver here in the second half if they are going to end up winning this game and continue keeping those national championship hopes alive. As we'll go ahead and see the ball carrier, not Mr. Carter, but Jared McBride. He'll find the end zone again, cuts it to within a field goal. Still a tight game here in the fourth quarter as McBride's going to have another carry, and McBride gets absolutely tattooed on that run. He's going to get himself back up, but he gets up pretty slowly now. I could definitely see why. I mean, the dude took a massive hit there. Speaking of hits, Casey Carter took a hit in the pocket, but he hangs strong and finds Mark Edwards for the first down. Mark Edwards having a good day, by the way. Over 100 yards of receiving before Jared McBride again finding the end zone for the Miami Hurricanes. For the first time today, actually, they do have the lead. But Lou Munoz, he's going to try to respond back. 5 minutes left. Munoz faces some pressure, throws over the middle, but it's going to be intercepted. That is the true freshman, Gerald Harris, who is starting. He just was in high school last year, starting on his national championship caliber defense. And look at that, making a big play when it matters the most. Miami looking to shut the door once and for all. And I'm sure if Miami scores a touchdown here, it's going to be over. It's going to be over quickly. Now, first and goal inside the 5-yard line, setting up the speed option. Casey Carter, how about this willpower from Casey Carter, able to find the end zone on that particular run. They do end up missing the extra point, though, so it is still a 10-point game. So, still could see a lot happen here in the next couple of minutes. Cowboys still have all of their timeouts, and they are a team that's used to going fast. They like to go into that no huddle. This is what they do whenever they put together a positive play. And sure enough, Reggie Reed's going to score for Oklahoma State. So it's not over yet. It's certainly not over yet. They will need this onside kick in order to keep this game alive. And sure enough, Miami, they tried a different strategy to, get the onside kick. Does not work. And Miami will hang on and win 30-27 in what was a pretty close one. So some other low-key games that are happening right now, but we do have Illinois and Indiana, one of the rivalry games being shown here today. Indiana 1-2, while Illinois still looking for their very first win in the season. Indiana does have an offensive coordinator, Dalton Barentine. He is the one of your guys' custom coaches, by the way. He's in his debut season. And we're going to see his offense go to work as they set up the halfback screen. Now, first, this was going to be a massive failure. But then Chris Strunk finds those way into the end zone anyways. One of those, no. Okay, good job. Good job there, buddy. And Indiana's going to be able to tie the game because of that. But Illinois trying to pull away early in this ball game, midway through the second quarter. They still have a 7-point lead at this particular spot. But Illinois really in a spot to really extend this lead significantly further. As first and goal coming up, we're going to see the run over to the right-hand side, able to get the touchdown for Paul Gordon. Paul Gordon providing Illinois that 14-point lead. And Indiana just trying their best to just try to keep within striking distance so that they can make some kind of fourth quarter comeback possibly. But how about this catch by Joe Williams? He almost messes around, finds his way into the end zone anyways. It sets up first and goal after that big reception. Just going to hand it off to Demetrius Hudson. Did not expect that name for a guy that looks like, Demetrius looks for sure. But Indiana does make it a one-possession game, but trying to throw over the middle of the field on this fourth down conversion. Unfortunately, an interception is thrown there. Chris Struggs, not really sure what he's looking at, to be honest with you. I would have just used the feet there, but that's what he did not choose to do. So now, Illinois in a spot where they can close this game out, but we got an interception going the other way. And Indiana now has some life. Joe Fields keeps them in the game. And now here comes the Hoosiers. Looking to tie. Play action. Shrugs. Looks over the right-hand side. He's got a man. and it's Kyle Anderson for the first down. An 18-yard reception that makes it 1st and goal as the Hoosiers look to tie again with Demetrius Hudson, and they do. Touchdown, Indiana, and we got a tie ball game all of a sudden. But Illinois still has a chance to win this game. Depends on how this last 140 goes. That's a big catch to start that particular drive, as John Love is still going as a 30-yard reception. John Love making it just one first down away possibly from being in field goal range right now. So that's a big deal. But so is this particular interception. And they're going to try to return it all the way back. Running back cannot bring him down, but one of the receivers does catch up. And now it's Indiana with a real shot to win this game. And they do just that. 5 seconds left. Final play of the game. The kick is up. And it's good. Indiana is going to win as the Hoosiers. They didn't win their first game of the season until late. They already got 2 wins. They matched their win record total from last year, as they're at 500 after 4 games now. So now we got the Texas Longhorns, which Texas has been on a long break. Texas has not played since week number 1 in that Texas kickoff against Boise State. SMU, on the other hand, SMU has kind of surpassed expectations early on in the season. We did see them take down Navy. Navy was a top 25 team, so signature win already for the Mustangs. But Texas is going to be an interesting one. If they're not too terribly rusty, which looks like they have some rust on them, obviously. I mean, this is their first game in 3 weeks, man. And I didn't set up the schedule that way. That's just how the CPU generated the schedules. And that's just in the interest of, I don't want to have any changes to the schedule. Whatever the CPU originally generates, that's what we're rolling with for the upcoming season. So this is Texas' first game in a few weeks. And yeah, they're a little bit rusty for sure. Only 7 points. And we're just a couple minutes left here in the first half. But in that 2-minute drill, we start to see that Texas offense find some, Walter Sims, for example. I don't know how he gets this wide butt naked open, but Chase Ingram finds him for a score. And then very next possession, SMU couldn't do anything on the ball. Texas uses one of their timeouts in order to ensure more time with said football. So they have a chance for Texas to extend this lead further. Won't be surprised if they attack deep on that right-hand side because they are pressing up pretty well. But no, they're going to the left-hand side instead. One-on-one, and look at this. Walter Sims again strikes back, and he's going to moss the defender this time. The positioning was not that bad, so from there it seemed like Texas was going to run away with this game, but SMU showing some life late in this one. They will go for the 2-point conversion. If they get this, they would make this a 10-point game. And sure enough, SMU actually does succeed with the 2-point conversion. So Mustangs do make it interesting, but Texas, with a strong second and third quarter, they're going to win yet again. So one more game that we have in this current slate of games, we got Wisconsin taking on the Kansas Jayhawks. Kansas, another one of those teams that have had 2 bye weeks in the first few weeks of the season. So because there's 14 weeks and 12 games, Kansas is already done with their bye weeks. They'll be playing football for the rest of the season, that's for sure. But Kansas, there's no score right now, but Dennis Johnson, he's going to run into the end zone by himself. He's actually going to score, and not only is Kansas leading, but depending on what happens here on this particular possession, Kansas might run away with this game, which is something that I did not have on the bingo card, considering Wisconsin. Keep in mind, Wisconsin was a team that did sneak his way into the college football playoff last year as the 8th seed because they were champions of the American Conference. But that being said, though, I'm not sure if Wisconsin has it today. I'm going to be real with you guys. I don't know if Wisconsin's got it in them because Kansas is getting ready to put a 30-piece up on Wisconsin right now. And we're still not even done with the whole game yet. We still have a whole nother quarter to play. Eric Clark, he's going to make sure that they do hit that 30 mark, as Dennis Johnson does throw a touchdown pass. And Wisconsin in a lot of trouble here in Memorial Stadium, as they really need this Badger offense to really wake up right now. I don't know if they're going to be able to do just that, but they're going to have to figure out a way. They will definitely need to figure out a way. As 4th down, they're going to go for it here on 4th down. Obviously, not left with any choices at this point. Joe Bullock gets his first carry today. He makes the most of it, keeps the drive alive for the Wisconsin Badgers. And then on 2nd and goal, a throw over the middle to Jason Davis. So I imagine they'll go for the 2-point conversion. We'll see if they'll do exactly that. Look at that. They are actually going to go for that 2-point conversion. Looking for the end zone. Looking over the middle and finds his receiver. But, Wisconsin, they did a little bit too little too late. That shutout in the first half does not help as Kansas wins. So we do get some studio updates in this episode. And how about the Warhawks of Louisiana Monroe? They beat Boise State 35-21. They're undefeated. And speaking of undefeated teams, Colorado State is also undefeated. They're 4-0. Meanwhile, Western Michigan also proves that maybe they deserve to be ranked as well, as they take down a ranked Minnesota squad 38-31. Minnesota should fall out of the top 25, and if this AP poll has any respect, Western Michigan should be in there to replace these guys. One more game that I did want to mention before we jump into the rest of the action. Nevada did take on Temple. It was a closely hard-fought game, but Nevada wins 27-24, a team that could make some noise later in the year. So now we get back to the rest of the action. We got Georgia taking on the Seminoles of Florida State. Georgia coming in as one of those teams that is 3-0 moving into this thing. Florida State 2-1. Meanwhile, they were one of the teams that actually did lose to Western Michigan, so they're coming off of that. So Georgia, this is gonna be a tough game for Florida State, but they are at home at the very least. That stadium down there at Tallahassee, Florida, it can really get hot. It can really get bumping. So we're going to need every piece of that home crowd if they are going to pull the upset off here in SEC conference play, particularly trying to make it to that Sunshine Division title. Need everything that they could get in order to chase Miami. But Florida State does actually draw the first blood. They do get a rushing touchdown from their quarterback, Jack Rowe. So now Georgia is on the back end trying to respond, being on the defensive. But this run by their quarterback, pretty impressive run there for Andre Bryant. Just making the right decisions, keeping the ball all by himself. And now setting up a goal line situation now, as we're going to see a run up the gut for Scott Smart. And Scott Smart will score. So we do have a pretty interesting game thus far. But after that, Georgia took control. They build upon this lead. And we don't really see Florida State do much of anything until late in the third quarter. So Florida State looking to just try to get back into this game. They're really seeing the depth of the talent really take over for Georgia. Florida State's got some guys. Florida State certainly has some very talented guys, but I don't know, Georgia just seems like that team of destiny this year that could very well win a national championship. They are that good this year. They have the stunts to get the job done, as that's a strike to Reggie Peterson. That is the FCS transfer from James Madison. Reggie Peterson able to get the strike, and Georgia handled its business today. So a couple more games getting kicked off here as Baylor is taking on Texas Tech. Baylor, a team that was ranked in the top 25. Well, they not only lose to Ole Miss, which lost to Ole Miss, okay, no problems there. They lost to an FCS team, though, the week after that. So Baylor looking for that mojo. They are really could be flirting with disaster if they don't get things going quickly. But conference play starting up for both teams here. Baylor can still get to 1-0 and still have a lot to play for in the conference sense. Their national championship aspirations are probably done already. We'll see what Wes Jordan can do. We'll see if he can have that breakout game that we still kind of been waiting for. We've seen bits of brilliance from what really made scouts so excited for him as a quarterback at the Division I level, transferring from the JUCO ranks. But Wes Jordan, he really brings it today. He sits in, takes that pressure extremely well to Cornelius Horn. So Baylor now has the lead. They're up 14-7, but Texas Tech knows a thing or two about scoring as well. Or at least so we thought, but the ball's on the ground. Baylor's going to recover. We might mess around. Have a big boy touchdown? Is that what we're going to see? Only one person might possibly catch him, and it's 88. They're going to mark him down at the 1-yard line, but I think he got in there. I really did. I'm surprised that they did not review that. So either way, Baylor starts inside the 5-yard line, and Les Jordan well, he's going to handle the rest of the business himself. Nice little run into the end zone. Baylor's going to score off of the turnover. And then later on in the second quarter as well, Jordan does a nice job reading the defense, gets the ball out to Cornelius Horn. That is his guy right there. That is his top receiver for sure. As another 1st and goal coming up, we'll see Jonathan Matthews run into the end zone. That's touchdown for the Baylor Bears. It looks like Baylor might mess around and run away with this game, unless Texas Tech has something to say about it. But an interception thrown, not somewhere what you wanted to go. Gerald Presley not doing himself any favors right now, as Baylor continues to pour it on here in Lubbock, Texas. Jonathan Matthews, he nearly runs into the end zone. He's well over 100 yards in this game. So a balanced attack for the pass and the run, as Jonathan Matthews gets the job done there. 35-7 being your score. The Baylor offense really humming along today. And speaking of humming along, there's another run for Jonathan Matthews down the sideline and bouncing off a couple of defenders as well. This is just Baylor's day today. They end up winning big, going on the road in Lubbock, Texas, as the Bears put up a 50-piece on Texas Tech, as they do finally earn their first win of the year. Meanwhile, we have our top 25 matchup. We got Washington taking on USC. Washington ranked number 12 in the country right now, taking on the number 2 ranked USC Trojans. And I mean, this conference is absolutely lethal right now. As of right now, only one team that's under 500, and that is San Diego State. A lot of good football here in the Pac-12. Easy to see. I mean, they have the number 1, 2, 3, and 4, although that's going to be subject to change because of the Oregon loss earlier in this episode. But what I really mean to say is that there's just a lot of high-quality football right now. And this particular conference, this is a dangerous conference to certainly watch out for, and we're getting all of that here in this game as USC is going to score first. Nice throw there to the outside, by the way, by Ben Scott. See if he can duplicate that as he'll drop back the pass yet again, loading up towards the end zone. Tight window, but drops it right in the bucket. Myron Jones able to get the feet in bounds as well, and the coverage wasn't even that bad. There was not a lot of space out there on the outside, and Myron Jones able to find just that little crease, and USC scoring yet again. They're dominating early on in this game, and Washington now really needs to respond now, as the Huskies trying to put together a drive of their own. They're looking for a big play downfield, but leaves it short. He left the throw short, and now USC is returning the ball down the sideline, and they get across almost to midfield. That almost got to midfield. Eric Collins there responsible to pick that pass off. I mean, Jason Smith had him. Jason Smith certainly had him. There's no questions about that. Just, I mean, like I said, he certainly left it short there. And now we'll see the run game go to work. John Concepcion, the transfer out of Montana, the FCS Big Sky running back of the year, one of the best running backs from the Big Sky Conference's previous season. Well, he gets his first rushing touchdown of the day. And now it's 21-0. USC out here dominating. Still reeling for, I guess Washington is still thinking about what they need to do from last week. And they're not like all focused in on that USC game. But they should be able to finally get the goose egg off the scoreboard. They will do it with their tailback, Andy Curtis, who finally gets on the scoreboard for Washington. It's been really a nightmare scenario for the Huskies right now. Has not been a good look for this Washington team, as now USC up by 2 scores. But Nick Richard, the actual starting tailback of his USC squad, he's going to get involved as well. He'll get his first rushing score of the day. It looks like USC could cruise, or, I mean, they could be going for that blowout as well if they really want to. But Ben Scott, he gets hit from the blind side by Don Scott. No relation. And so, 3rd and long, maybe this is the turnaround point for Washington, except on a 3rd and long, they give up a massive play. That's Anthony Johnson, 30-yard reception. You just can't do that on a 3rd down. You can't do that. And Ben Scott, he takes advantage, pushes it down the rest of the field himself, and USC scores yet again. I mean, USC, they struggled in bits and pieces, didn't live up to expectations in the game against Texas State, or, might have let Maryland hang around a little bit too long. But in this particular game against Washington has come and played at an extraordinarily high level right now. They came to play against Washington, and even though Washington does score in the end of the third quarter, that's the last score that we end up seeing, as USC takes care of business 35-14, as USC certainly shows why they're ranked in the top 5. So we got some more studio updates waiting for us, and we almost had the upset of the century. Nebraska barely surviving as the Cornhuskers win 21-20, but I mean, this Utah State certainly better than what that 1-3 record shows. And then another studio update that we got going on, Akron has gone to a shootout against Colorado, and Akron actually wins, so you love to see that. But more importantly, Syracuse actually loses to the Navy, so that's a big one that's going to shake up top 25 rankings. And then, of course, Coastal Carolina having a solid season. They have a 4-point win over New Mexico. So we got a few more games in this particular episode, and we'll start things out in that upper left-hand quarter. We got Appalachian State, which, again, does have one of your custom coaches. Jamaro Lewis is the offensive coordinator for Appalachian State. He's in his debut season as well, and they got a challenge here today. They are going to be challenged against this Ohio State squad, ranked number 7 in the country, looking to get into the college football playoff for the first time in this series. And I mean, you could see what this Ohio State offense is capable of when it's humming along. We saw them sputter in the second half of the season, as well as maybe in that first game against Illinois as well. But maybe that FCS game got them right, because they scored 21 points in one quarter. That's already more than what they scored against Illinois in the entire game, and yet still somehow they actually found a way to win that game in spite of how the offense performed on that particular day. I don't think that's going to be an issue here, because Appalachian State defensively has not really had the answers that they are looking for. Sam Williams is going to score, and it looks like Ohio State, this is their day today. They are struggling in this one. Hopefully the Mountaineers can pull themselves out of it and make this a competitive game. This might help them do that. 4th and 6. Jamar Lewis is going to go for it, and Pierre Vaughn, he just found a soft spot in the defense, and hey, that'll help Appalachian State cut to a 2-score game going into the half. But if Appalachian State is going to win this game, they actually need to do this thing called stopping the Ohio State offense. They actually need to stop them, and they haven't done that yet. They have not been able to do that thus far. It's got a 2nd and 4 now coming up. Looks like a run to the right-hand side. That's going to be a first down for the Buckeyes, as Brooke Hicks hasn't carried the ball too terribly much. Only 8 carries thus far in this game. But the other athletes of Ohio State really showing up and doing the dirty work. I thought Keith Carter got into the end zone here, but looks like they are going to mark him down at the 1-yard line, or more so the 1-inch line. Doesn't matter though. Ohio State still scores yet again, and Ohio State makes it a 35-14 game. As later on in the third quarter, Appalachian State could not respond yet again, as looks like Hicks is just having his day today. Didn't even need to throw the football all that much. Less than 200 yards passing from Hicks, but in spite of that, Ohio State still puts up that 50 burger to beat App State. Meanwhile, we got Central Michigan going on the road to take on the Tennessee Volunteers, and this is not the game that I've been expecting. I figured Tennessee would be doing a lot better than what they've been doing right now. Central Michigan actually in the lead, and in the most conservative of ways. I mean, we've always seen 3 points scored. We have not seen any touchdowns. That's why it took so long to get highlights for this Tennessee Central Michigan game, because really nothing spectacular has really happened, to be honest with you guys. But Tennessee will look to change that up. They're going to try to get on the board for the first time today, knock down the 1-yard line, but we'll see Drew Brown find the end zone. That's a touchdown for the Tennessee Volunteers. Finally see them get on the board, something that they really need to do. They finally do just that to take the lead, but Central Michigan might have something playing of their own. 1 minute left. Looking over to the left-hand side. Breaks a tackle. Breaks another one. Oh, man, he actually could get loose, but Malachi Richard, he couldn't stay on his feet. Oh, you hate to see it, but It's great play there either way, and Central Michigan is in business, man. The Chippewas might take the lead, and they're going to bust out that no-huddle offense. They got Tennessee off balance right now. They're going to look for that lead here. 1st and 10, about the 12-yard line. Looking to the left-hand side. He's got his man, and it's Kalakai Richards into the end zone. Touchdown, Central Michigan. The Chippewas had the lead for a while, but unfortunately they couldn't hold on to it the whole time, though, as Tennessee, they clawed back to this game eventually, and even though it wasn't pretty for Tennessee, they found a way to win courtesy of their kicker actually showing up and playing some good ball today. Now, that being said, we got Maryland taking on West Virginia, and this was actually where College Game Day decided to go. And that's why you see Maryland on the thumbnail. Well, why would Maryland, who's not even ranked in the top 25, why would they end up on the thumbnail of all teams? Well, you're about to go ahead and find out, because are we going to see a star being born here today? Chris Carlton, he's got some poise, and he throws a strike over the middle to Robbie Lee. He's going to find his way into the end zone. That's a touchdown for the Terrapins. A great start for the Maryland offense as they'll take a 10-0 lead. But they're going to also feel the country roads here a little bit as, oh man, West Virginia, they got away with one. They got away with one right there with that particular fumble recovery. They do work themselves back into the red zone eventually with a 1st and goal. And now you're going to hear the country roads. And Chad Williams almost takes them home into the end zone. Again, I thought that they got in there on that particular play, but didn't happen like that. It really did not happen like that, particularly as Chad Williams will score for the Mountaineers there, as they will make it a field goal game. So back and forth affair thus far, as we have had an entertaining game here on College Game Day. And you see why they decided to go to Morgantown, West Virginia, because even though West Virginia has not really played well in this series, they were a team that was ranked in the top 25, did not get to a bowl game, I don't think, and they're not off to a great start here either, 1-2. Not necessarily fair weather fans here in West Virginia. They really care about their football team for sure, but Maryland's going to make it tough on them. Maryland is certainly going to make it tough on them for sure, as we now cut to less than 1:30 left in this first half. Mountaineers still down by a field goal, but they're going to look to answer the call back as they'll look over to the right-hand side. Got a receiver again, Jake Sanders. They'll have him just outside of the red zone. And a couple plays later, another great play over to the left-hand side, inside for 10. And West Virginia just doing a great job working this clock. They still got a timeout. They're going to try to keep it in the back pockets. They're going to go for it. 2nd and goal. Looking. Fires over the right-hand side. And Chad Williams, he extends the ball out before he gets pushed back. And the Mountaineers, they'll take the lead as we're now in the halftime locker room. And depending on what happens here, West Virginia might run away with this game. They could with this particular play. Anthony McCollum scores. So West Virginia with an 18-point lead. And it puts a lot on Chris Carlton right now. He's going to really need to deliver. Be smart here if Maryland's going to come out and win this game. And Carlton looks like he's ready to answer. 4th quarter, still down by 11. Already with a rushing touchdown in the backhand. Well, he's going to trust those legs yet again. Just keeping the legs moving forward. He'll pick up a gain of 8 on that particular run. Is now got a 2nd and short coming right up. Carlton throws over the middle. That's another first down. Smart throw by Carlton there, as he already finds Robert Lee. He's got a touchdown already. 2nd and goal now. Carlton again dropping back. Looks over the middle and finds Craig Holman. Maryland is right back in the game. Only down by 5, but could cut it to a field goal depending on how this run goes. And Luke Jones punches it in. So just a field goal game now, and after West Virginia's punt, well, they can mess around. They can take the lead here. Imagine that, down by 18. As now, 2nd and goal here. Carlton, does he trust himself? He does. Carlton throws to the right-hand side, and it's caught. Luke Jones in the end zone. And you could hear a squirrel fart in the stadium right now, because this stadium is absolutely silent. West Virginia, the Morgantown crowd, absolutely stunned right now. And here they are with the ball. 2 minutes left to play. They could slam the door shut right now if they want to do that. Carlton runs the ball. He's going to keep it himself. Oh, he almost took it all the way. That shoestring tackle really bailed him out. But, I mean, at this point, maybe it wouldn't help them all too much because West Virginia is now out of timeouts. And this will seal the deal. Chris Carlton with a huge run there. Touchdown, Maryland. West Virginia does score quickly. They will make it interesting, but I mean, Maryland's going to survive this shootout. What an absolutely epic shootout that we just witnessed as Maryland comes down 18 at one point, and they come back. Huge fourth quarter. They win this shootout in a massive way. You love to see it. So we had one more game that I wanted to show you guys here in this particular episode, and it's Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech does get ranked in the top 25, ranked number 16 in the entire country, and they are taking on LSU in Death Valley. LSU ranked number 11 in the country. Tough conference here. We got 4 out of the 7 teams in the Bayou Division ranked in the top 25. So maybe this Sun Belt Conference, depending on how things shake out in the Dixie Division, we'll see if that's going to be one of those things where we do end up seeing the Sun Belt being considered the best conference in college football. Definitely one to being the Pac-12 and the Sun Belt. But LSU showing that, hey, you know, we've been to a little bit of a slow start. We're showing that we're better than what we showed in that Auburn game, right? We are definitely better than that. But Louisiana Tech proving that, hey, we may be the much lesser overall team, but, you know, this Bulldog squad, they make up with it by playing with just a lot of heart right now. Louisiana Tech just showing that they are a team that's filled with heart and determination, and they have a chance to tie the game, which they almost do. Oh, dude had the ball in his hands. He had the ball in his hands and just dropped it. So Louisiana Tech's down by 2, but in the third quarter, Bulldogs will have a chance to take the lead here. Porter throws to the right-hand side and finds Warren Winston. Louisiana Tech has the lead against LSU. And the Bulldogs up by 4. And they're going to go for the 2-point conversion yet again to make it a 6-point game. Dropping back, looks to the left-hand side, and it's caught by the true freshman, Charles Fletcher. And he's a big guy that Louisiana Tech is going to love. 6'6" and has those natural wide receiver skills as well. Oh, he's going to be a fun person to watch grow and develop over the next few years. But here we are in the fourth quarter. We are... Actually, they did not get that 2-point conversion. I actually thought they got that, but ball must have been out of bounds, which is really important because LSU makes it a 3-point game. So now Louisiana Tech, they can't win off a field goal anymore. They won't need that field goal, though, as Ellen Simpson, he's going to find the end zone. Back quarter, Gerald Porter throws a dot to the right-hand side. And that's what happens when you can get some good protection, baby. And Louisiana Tech up by 4 as LSU looking to win this game. Dropping back. He's got a bunch of time. Look at all of his time that he has. He can make himself a sandwich, and he chooses to make that decision. He chose to do that. He could have ran with it. He could have threw the ball away. There was a bunch of different things that this guy could have done. That's not one of them that I'm sure he was looking for. So, Louisiana Tech, 2 minutes left. They may have had the free timeouts that they had to deal with, but they actually deal with it successfully, even getting a field goal at the very end of the game, trying to get some style points there. Louisiana Tech, man, big win for their program. They take down LSU on the road in what was a shocker. But now we go ahead and dive into some of the other games that happened around the country. And we start with number 22 Lane. They are coming off a loss to LSU, but they did get themselves together a little bit. They took on Troy at home, and while it wasn't a pretty game by any means, Tulane still wins 17-7 in order to get back to 500 on the season. But how about the Bowling Green Falcons getting back to 500 in an absolutely massive way, going on the road to take on the Georgia Southern Eagles, and Bowling Green just goes to down. The Falcons win 45-13 as they get to 2-2, while the Georgia Southern Eagles, they lose their second game of the season. As for the Rice Owls, they show why they deserve to remain in the top 25, as Rice is still undefeated on the season. They beat the Cincinnati Bearcats 35-25, as Rice is off to a 3-0 start. But shortly after, we did end up witnessing Kentucky really struggling at Governor's Cup against Louisville. Well, they found their offense. They could have used those points last week, but they do end up winning big against Northwestern in conference play, 41-7. Speaking of blowouts, though, we had another one in the Midwest as Kent State improves to 2-1, blowing out the Louisville Cardinals, who have really struggled through the start of this season. Kent State wins 49-14 as Louisville gets blown out yet again in this season. It's been a real struggle for these guys. Meanwhile, for the Michigan Wolverines, they really showed what they were made of as they went in there like they were going into a Mexican restaurant as they rolled the Eastern Michigan Eagles. They never stood a chance. Michigan wins 46-3 and showed why they are one of the premier teams in the country in the NCSL Dynasty. And finally, we have an update from the Sun Belt as we had the Battle of Arkansas take place. Arkansas wins 41-10 as the Arkansas Razorbacks, all of their games have been in conference play so far. They're 3-1 in that early stretch. So we've made it through 4 weeks of the season so far. So a month in, and this is what your top 25 is going to be looking like right now. Your top 3 teams are all coming from the West Coast, as the Pac-12 has 1, 2, 3 in there, which is pretty cool to see, to be honest. But within the top 10, there really isn't much movement, with the exception of Louisiana State. We saw their big time win on the road against LSU, by the way. They are now number 10 in the country, and their schedule gets a lot easier as they now get to take on Eastern Michigan, who we just saw blown out. Coming in at 11 is Penn State. They move up 3 spots. They were on bye. Michigan State moves up 5 spots as they were on bye not only this week, but they'll be on bye again next week as well. Arkansas, we saw what they did against Arkansas State, so they're up 5. Washington, even though they're 1-2, they only moved down a couple of spots yet again because they have had a really brutal schedule for the first, well, ever since that Ohio game. They played UCLA and they played USC as well. They're literally number 1 and number 2 in the country right now. LSU, tough loss against Louisiana Tech. They fall 4. Auburn's up a few spots. They're at number 16 right now. Oregon, they were the biggest fallers in this top 25 without actually leaving the polls. That's Oregon's first loss of the year, a heartbreaker to Stanford that we saw in the episode. Pittsburgh gets exposed a little bit. Their first non-FCS team was a 10-point loss to UCLA. North Carolina is up 1, and then rounding out your top 25 is Tulane at 20, Army at number 21, Syracuse at number 22 in the entire country. Then we have Alabama, Rice at 24, and we do have a new team entering the top 25. That is the Utah Utes. They were actually on bye this week. They are replacing the Minnesota Golden Gophers, who did lose to Tulane earlier this season, and then they did also lose to Western Michigan in this episode. But guys, that will wrap things up here in terms of tonight's episode of the NCSL Dynasty. It's been some great football here in year number 2. I'm really excited to see us get a little bit closer to establishing what that playoff picture is looking like, and even less so, to a smaller degree, what those conference championship races are looking like. We're starting to get into conference play, but in the meantime, I'm going to sign off, but I hope you did enjoy this episode. If you did, make sure you go ahead and smack that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel as well. This is John J. Gaming on the mic signing off, but hoping you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.